Lost the power of speech already on my first sentence. Welcome everyone, and I'd like to welcome my guests, Paul van der Sterren and Erwin L'ami, who very kindly joined me this evening. Good evening, gents. How are you?
Hello, Daniel.
Good evening. Hi.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to discuss your new book. There we go. Max Euwe, World Champion! Exclamation mark.
Yes.
The Champion Years, 1935 to 1937. There we go. So before we get going, let me introduce you both for our guests. Our viewers as well. So if you're out there, let me know you're out there. I want to see you on the chat. So I'm going to be dividing my attention between you and the chat. If you don't, so when I'm looking this way, don't think that I'm ignoring you both, by the way. Anyway, let me give you a little. There we go. Milan Braca. Hallo aus Belgien. Okay, there we go. I'm not quite sure why Milan is speaking in German, but anyway, hallo aus Belgien. Guten Abend aus Hamburg und Grüße an Erwin, Paul und Daniel. Okay, there we go. Apparently we switched to German. Okay, let me introduce you. I'm going to embarrass you by just giving you a short introduction. So, we're discussing the new book, Max Euwe, World Champion. And both my guests have many accomplishments in the chess world. They've both been Dutch champion and, both grandmasters, of course. Paul qualified for the candidates in 1993. And he's previously written, several books, including his autobiography in black and white, and this very nice book, Mindful Chess. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, Paul. Actually, that was great. And Erwin has also many accomplishments and achievements in the chess world, of course. Reykjavik Open winner 2015, I seem to recall. And apart from that, you've been a second for Veselin Topalov, Anish Giri. You're a renowned, Erwin is a renowned opening theoretician. So there we go. Anyway, welcome, gentlemen. Very, very nice to have you with us here. So, Paul, I think that the title of the book, The Champion Years, makes it clear what we're discussing this evening. So my first question is, what prompted you to write this book on Max Euwe?
I did a couple of video lectures about 5 years ago about the first World Championship match between Euwe and Alekhine, and made quite a thorough study of that period. And one of the things that struck me was that Euwe seems to be generally a bit underestimated in mainly, I think, Anglo-Saxon literature. So this intrigued me in a way, and I just wanted to find out what really happened. So I started digging in newspapers and magazines from that time to get as clear as possible a picture of how people regarded him when he was the world champion. And that prompted me to write a book and try and rehabilitate him a little bit, if that was necessary. And then I asked Erwin to analyze some games of that same period to support my view, or rather to present some really good games, really interesting games.
Okay, so I read in your introduction you had several questions that you wanted to try to answer. It's probably, I don't know if you recall these exact questions, it's sometime since you wrote the book, but I mean, I can remind you if you like.
I'll look it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of them was, about how well did Euwe play against his his
Yeah.
top rivals in that
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that,
Yes. What exactly was the hierarchy between the top players of that time? Was Euwe generally regarded as the world champion, the best, or did people look down on him a little bit? Um, Also, I was very interested in the results of those 2 years and tried to form myself a picture of who the best players were. And I think I succeeded in that, and the result was actually very satisfying. That Euwe was definitely regarded as the world champion by the whole world, and that his main rivals were, well, it would be an exaggeration to say that Euwe dominated them, but he was certainly clearly respected as the world champion, and there was no other player who did better than him. And Alekhine least of all. He was, of the top players, he was in fact the least impressive of those 2 years.
okay, so let me switch to Erwin now. So
Mm.
we're going to dive into the detail of some of the games in a moment. But before we do that, Erwin, having analysed these games, in a nutshell, this is difficult, but could you describe Max Euwe's style, if that's at all possible?
I think it's possible. First of all, what I thoroughly enjoyed when I was analyzing these games is to see the evolution in chess in general. So that was for me also very much a big topic. Um, for instance, in this game with Kier as well. Well, we'll look at some of the games later on, but you can see certain ideas which, by modern players, they would probably no longer play or think that way. So I really enjoyed seeing the evolution in chess through those games. You asked about his style.
Yeah.
I think that first of all, he was extremely well prepared, which I think was almost unheard of in those days.
Yeah.
He was far ahead of Alekhine especially in the first match. That was very visible. So despite the fact that he was a teacher by profession, he was actually the better prepared player. And I think in general he was much more systematic about the way he approached the game, much more so than any of his contemporaries. I think that was a big difference between him and the others. He was a great attacking player. I mean, I think if you drop him in 2026 and you give him an attacking position, he will perform. I have no doubt about that. The endgame, his endgame skills, I think, again by modern standards, are not as good, and perhaps also not compared to the other top players of those days, but an excellent tactician as well. Yeah, what else can I say? He played always from a solid strategic basis, so he had a very healthy playing style. Those are, I think, the main characteristics of his play.
Well, that's interesting when you talk about, he was very systematic and organized. And I mean, do you think his studies as a mathematician actually informed this approach to his chess?
Perhaps he was very structured, and I'm sure that helped in his study of chess. So that may very well be that his academic work actually helped him, yeah, in his chess career. Perhaps Lasker also, of course, had many other activities besides chess, and perhaps it helped him as well in that sense.
Okay, now I want to start with the last game, the last move of the first match in 1935. So this is where it all starts, the book, and you start in, whoops, sorry, if I can get there. So you start in this position. Paul, do you want to talk me through this position? So this is the final position of the final game of the 1935 World Championship match. Paul, tell me what happened next, because I think this is scandalous.
Well, it is certainly something that would never happen today. I think in those days it was not considered that scandalous. But what happened is that the game was to be adjourned at this point after 5 hours of play. And Alekhine, or rather Euwe, well, now I have actually forgotten what happened exactly, but it was agreed to draw. Although white is 2 pawns up, and there's really no problem at all in the position. I mean, you can't go wrong here. So yes, a person with a strong sense of decency would have simply resigned here as black.
I think Euwe at the start of the game had said something along the lines of that he offered to draw at any point.
Exactly.
Something like that. And
Yes.
well,
Before the game, he had assured Alekhine that if he wanted to draw at any point, just tell me, and you've got it.
And Alekhine took him at his word.
Yes.
And seized his hand.
Yes.
Draw!
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's really funny, but kind of
It is a bit
scandalous.
strange. Yeah. I suppose to most modern minds, this is a bit, well, immoral, to use a strong word. But I didn't come across any criticism in the contemporary newspapers. People just were just, well, in Holland at least, people were just happy that Euwe had won the match and didn't bother about this.
Okay, no, yeah, I guess so. The euphoria took over. Okay, well, and that leads me to the next. Sorry, Erwin,
no,
please.
the interesting thing is that in the Max Euwe Center, where Paul and I are both heavily involved in the Max Euwe Center in Amsterdam, there is actually a chessboard, and it's claimed that it is the board used in the match, and this exact position is depicted on that board. It can be seen in the museum
Permanently.
right there. Yes.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's really wonderful. Okay, so you mentioned the joy that well, obviously took over the Netherlands. Paul, can you tell me a little bit more about the effect that Euwe's victory in this match had in the Netherlands?
Yes, well, in fact, your choice of words, euphoria, was much more accurate. It was an unequaled wave of joy that went through the country, and festivities went on for days. Euwe was really, probably his victory meant more to the nation than winning the World Cup soccer would mean nowadays. And that says something.
That's saying something.
And everybody started to play chess. This was really the moment when Holland started playing chess in a big way. Chess clubs were founded everywhere. In streetcars, this used to be the topic of the day. This match, I mean, the proceeding of the match. And in the long run, of course, it gave Holland a very strong position in the chess world, not just with this one very strong player, Euwe, but because chess became suddenly so popular, the effects on the Dutch chess world was a lasting one, and I think up to my generation and beyond, perhaps every chess player has profited by the huge wave of popularity that chess enjoyed after 1935.
Okay, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I want to dive into a game against one of Euwe's contemporaries, who was, well, an enormous talent in those days. So, Erwin, we're looking at this game between Paul Keres and Max Euwe from Zandvoort in, well, hang on, this was 1936 already?
36.
Yeah, 36.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Keres and his rise, because he was obviously a coming man at that time.
Yes, I think there were 7 or 8 top players in those years. I think I've called them the Magnificent Seven once in this book. And Keres was the youngest of them. I think he was 19 here, perhaps 20. Not quite sure what his birthday is. Which was, of course, in those days, extremely young. I mean, comparable to a 10-year-old today.
Yeah, and very interesting. You're already going through the moves. I mean, to me, the interesting moment. Well, first of all, he goes knight f3, Keres, and Nimzowitsch, of course, famously advocated this way of playing. Nowadays, nobody really plays this way anymore. Everybody goes c3. But anyway, queen takes d4, knight c6, queen f4, and this moment I find extremely instructive, and it's what I spoke about earlier. When you see the development of chess, of the game, I think, to most modern players, the move f6 here is fairly typical. You fight against the center, the pawn on e5, and once the pawn on e5 is gone, then, well, development will come swiftly, and black will have a very comfortable game. And Euwe plays this move f5. And actually, in the tournament book, Hans Kmoch, who analyzes this, he actually praises this move. He says it's a very fine move. Closing the king side and well, making sure white cannot attack on the king side. But of course, by modern standards, again, I mean, this move is quite a serious positional mistake, because the pawn on e5 remains alive. White has a lasting space advantage and is doing very well. So this is one of those moments where I think that in those days, 1936, these kind of opening issues, they were brand new. So it's in no way any form of disrespect that we are not liking this move f5, but it's simply, it was, I mean, they were making up theory.
It's also interesting. There's
something, pioneers.
Yeah, there's also something practical about f6, that, you know, once the position opens, then of course black is going to gain time against the queen. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, once the knight goes to f6, the bishop comes to d6, hitting the queen, you castle, you get this very quick development. It's actually quite a tricky position for white already after f6.
Yeah. Okay, but let's move on and have a look at this. Erwin, just stop when you want to point out.
Yeah, well, I probably shouldn't go into too much detail. Actually, bishop d3 is also a small mistake, but it's all very, very, very difficult. So more about it in the book. But this is all fairly normal, I think. And Keres here I think has a very nice position, just a very nice positional advantage at this point.
Actually, I've just given the game away, but I was just going to ask our viewers what they might play here as black, and I've just shown the move actually by mistake. I should say, hang on, I need to greet a few people. We've got Tulio in Brazil, fantastic, nice to see you. We've got Martin is he's down in Surrey, and Peter's here as well. He's in London. So anyway, we've got and Milan is
a very international audience.
Always, yeah. I've given the game away, but I wonder if any of our viewers would have found knight b8. I mean, Erwin, seriously, would you have played that move?
Unlikely, I think.
You're okay. The better answer is that you wouldn't have been in this position in the first place.
No, but it's a very interesting idea, because he intends to bring the knight to e4. It's just probably a bit too ambitious, and Keres just manages to prevent it. He goes knight d2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Sorry, just 1 second. We've got Alan Jackson in Australia. We've got Move Think in St. Petersburg. So in Petersburg, okay. Yeah, so this is the game continuation.
Yes.
If there's
Yeah,
any
this-
moment where you'd like our viewers to predict the next move,
Well, this is not one of them, I think. I think a4 is a pretty ugly move.
hey, listen, don't sit on the fence. Come down. What would you prefer instead?
Well, a move like bishop g5, I think, comes to mind to just exchange that bishop off and then bring the knight to d4. And yeah, again, I think white just has a nice positional advantage here. Maybe
Yeah.
nothing decisive yet, obviously, but I mean, once those bishops come off and the knight comes to d4, it can get a little bit ugly, I think.
Yeah. Yes, it looks. Now, although this is the only thing is this is the grit in the oyster.
Yes.
Once the knight lands on e4, then there's a decision to be made. But anyway, that it gives black a little hope. But instead, yeah, okay, so a4.
Yeah, and here the game starts turning, actually quite fast. Then I think Kyrgios slowly loses the thread here. He goes bishop b5, knight c6, and then c4.
It's funny that the knight has returned
Yes.
c6,
Yes.
but under different circumstances.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul, when you say very different, do you want to describe why?
Well, that's a difficult question, but
My job.
I suppose black now has more targets than when the knight first was on c6.
Yeah, already f5, f4 is a threat maybe, because e5 would be hanging if the queen...
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
And
that's
simply
true.
exchanging pieces is also not bad for black, I guess. Just
Yeah.
giving some pieces. So knight
Yes.
c6 makes a lot of sense.
I think just e5 is vulnerable now. Actually,
Yes.
Yeah, f4 and queen c7 and yeah. Okay, so right. Well, once c4 is played, then it's like whoa, the whole structure explodes.
Yeah, and here it gets out of hand for Kyrgios, I think, quite fast. I mean, over the next few moves. So knight takes d4, bishop c5, queen d3. I don't think I have much to add on this. Bishop b5, knight b5, all normal moves. Then queen h4, and you already can see black is getting very active. The bad bishop has been exchanged. Yeah, just a very nice position, I think.
Well, in fact, I mean, this is a complete transformation of the position
Yes.
over the last few
Yes.
moves. If we return to this position, well,
Yeah.
you could say that white has a lead in development, and yet we come to this position, and well, suddenly black's queen side has been developed. I mean, and the initiative. Wow.
Yeah, and this kind of positions, I mean, played just very well. I mean, also in the remainder of the game, he's just ruthless. I mean, he will not give him any chance to get back in the game. So he does that very. The moment there's some initiative, he just strikes.
So, but Paul, just what was Euwe's overall score against Kyrgios in that time?
I'm not sure about this. They played a couple of 10-game training matches later on, I think in 1940, before the war started, and perhaps one a few years after that. And then Kyrgios had grown enormously and was a very, very, very strong opponent. So Euwe probably had a negative score in the end against Kyrgios, but I would have to look that up.
But in this period, he beat
in
him
this
twice.
period,
He beats
he
him in
dominated.
Zandvoort and
Yeah.
at the Olympiad later.
Okay,
later on.
that's
He
the
beat
crucial
him
thing we're
twice.
talking about. In the World
Yes.
Champion years, he had
Yeah.
the positive score. Yeah,
In
good
our
to know.
book, it's 2-0.
Good.
Exactly, 2-0 with a few
Yeah.
drops. Yes, yeah.
For-
So this
for
was
those-
the first of his wins. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So just to let people know who are just arriving late, we're discussing Paul and Erwin's new book, Max Euwe, World Champion, the Champion Years, 1935 and 1937. Um,
Can I just
let's,
say that I'm very
yes,
happy
please.
with how New in Chess made that book, how it looks, the design. I find it very very pretty. The cover, for instance,
Yeah,
I couldn't agree
they
more.
really did a great job on it.
yeah,
Absolutely. I think for me, that's a really important part of a book. How the design and the cover. I mean, it's a wonderful photograph. It's beautifully
yeah,
laid out,
yeah,
and it's, well, I would say typical New in Chess layout. And there are some lovely photos in there as
yes,
well.
yeah.
It's a really handsome book, actually. I warmly recommend this. I pinned the link to New in Chess so everyone can see where to buy it. It's a very nice hardback book as well. So yeah, Erwin, you're absolutely right to point that out. Very very nice book indeed. Okay, where would you like to go to? Do you know what? I would really like to look at a game of Euwe's against Alekhine, because of course this Alekhine was the man. He was the big rival. Considering
Well,
the World Championship matches. So, Paul, I don't know, is there a game that you would like to look at for against Alekhine?
well, one of his wins would be nice. His score against Alekhine in this 2 year period was 2 wins and 1 loss, and some draws.
Okay, so a plus score against Alekhine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, it was the only game. The loss against Alekhine was the only game he lost against any of his fellow top players, against the Magnificent Seven.
Wow.
He lost once, but he beat Alekhine twice in that period.
Okay, so we're going to look at the game from the Arbeiterspers
Yes, yes,
tournament.
yes.
I've probably butchered the pronunciation.
No, no, you did very well.
Oh, well, that's very kind. So this is one of the wins.
Mhm.
But it's very interesting that, of course, Alekhine was a true professional. He just played chess.
Yeah.
But Euwe, well, Paul, tell us about Euwe's real career.
Yes, well, he had a full-time job. He was a maths teacher, and he also had a family. He was married, had 3 daughters. So he was. This is one of the incredible things about Euwe. He sort of lived 2 lives in one, because he was completely devoted to his job, didn't miss a single day, as far as I know, at the office. And as far as I know, he was also a devoted father. He only played tournaments when he could fit it in between, well, in holiday periods, basically. But nevertheless, as Erwin pointed out, he took opening preparation to a whole new level. I don't know when he did it, but he was completely up to date in opening theory, and I think he surpassed all his rivals in that respect during these years.
I think that may also be his biggest legacy. In fact,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
he taught the chess world how to work on chess. And if you
yeah,
see, for example, Botvinnik later on,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
And
that's how Euwe
yeah,
did it as well. I mean, that's
and
yeah,
through
also
him
modern
Kasparov as well.
chess. He
yeah.
was
I
very
quite
modern
agree.
in a way. He was fit.
Yeah,
He did a lot of boxing.
yeah.
He made sure that he was
He
very
was a
fit.
boxer. He was a
He was a
boxer.
boxer. Yes, yes.
Amateur
Whoa.
boxer.
Amateur boxer,
Yeah,
yeah, and
Wow.
so he made sure that he was ready to play long, grueling games.
yeah,
He was
yeah.
extremely well prepared, which is also a very modern thing to do. So he was a modern top player, which was at the time, of course, not at all common.
It was a revolution, and I think it wasn't even appreciated at the time. But I'm sure Botvinnik appreciated these qualities very, very much. And I think Botvinnik, is the real successor to Euwe. I mean, the second Alekhine period, that was sort of an intermezzo in my view. And Botvinnik, well, he took the Euwe method perhaps to a new level again.
Milan says he could have been a world champion at chess boxing.
Yes, yes, yes,
Fantastic. Yeah, but I mean, I was struck in reading the book this sense of duty that comes through very strongly.
Yeah.
And I found there was something very kind of Northern European Calvinist or something about it. Maybe I'm again reading
I think
too much
it's one
into
of the
this.
reasons why he's perhaps not taken. I'd say he's not viewed as such a great world champion because he was so modest. If you look at I don't know Steinitz, Alekhine, all those they were pretending in their analysis for that they were, playing perfect chess and that everybody should play like they did. And Euwe was very objective. He would point out mistakes that he made. He would never praise himself all that much. Also, at the time there were no ratings, so people didn't really know 100% who was the strongest player. So you had to do some propaganda for yourself, and Euwe didn't do that. And perhaps that was one of the reasons why people. He just simply didn't
He
make
didn't promote
any propaganda
himself.
for himself.
No, absolutely no self-promotion at all. In fact, he thought that immoral. He has said that I think he has written that in one of his newspaper articles, that he considered it immoral to praise your own efforts, your own results.
To blow his own trumpet, as we say.
Exactly. You don't do that. That was his morale.
Exactly. But and Paul, I thought it was really interesting in the book how you contrasted Euwe's attitude with Alikhin's, who kind of made himself out to be the hero. It's the hero cult.
He was a huge self-promoter. He was an incredible self-promoter, actually. And because there were no engines at the time to check what the world champion was saying about a position, he was always right. I mean, nobody was in a position to point out that what he was saying was nonsense, except perhaps after long analysis. And
it's really. I mean, I've read quite a few and done some research into a lot of newspaper articles in the 1930s in England from the tournaments there, and the way that Alikhin is spoken of, he cultivated this aura around him. Anyway, listen, let's have a look at this game. So this was from this tournament. So Erwin, just stop whenever you feel like it's a
I would just while we
moment.
go through the moves, it's maybe interesting to say that this time actually the opening is not a success for Euwe. He was a bit surprised with the fact that Alekhine chose the 4 knights, but it's very interesting to note that he probably did that because Euwe had a fantastic score in the Open Spanish. I made a note on that in the book. I think he scored something like plus 17 in 27 games in a 20-year period. Like an amazing score without losses, actually, in the Open Spanish. So people were very much aware of that, and at some point they started avoiding any sort of opening discussion with Euwe, and that's exactly what Alekhine did very successfully, I should add. Because very soon he will gain an advantage in this. It looks a bit innocent for now, but he's the first to play d4, and that's quite important in these type of positions. So black is one move too late, obviously, to play d5, so it gets a little bit of a cramped position. And over the next few moves, White's advantage is actually gonna become quite serious.
It's quite funny. It looks very contemporary.
It does.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
With all these gioco pianos. And,
and that's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, and I think especially this taking on d4, this was probably not the best way to play, and Alekhine gets a very nice position now. Just has a center here. For instance, a move like Queen d3, I believe was very, very, very good. Just keeping the center. But also what he did is not so bad. Just.
Okay, so where does it go wrong?
Yeah, no, it's still all very pleasant. I think this was not how to say. This was hard work on Euwe's side. First to get back in the game, And yeah, for instance, here after knight e7, I recall that, well, this is a good moment actually for your viewers, I think. After knight e7, what would you play with white? And it's not the move that Alekhine makes.
So wait a second. So
So instead of knight f5, what should
instead of
white
knight
play?
f5. Okay, that's it. Okay, let's throw this out there. Yeah.
And I hope I recall correctly, but I'm pretty sure I do.
Okay, so white play. We're throwing out a question to you.
Yeah, and this
To
is
our
quite
good
instructive
viewers.
actually. Quite an instructive moment.
So white play. What would you do next? I should say we've got really viewers from all over the world. We've just had Matt is in Los Angeles. We've had Australia. We've got Brazil, Kolkata. Yeah, all over the place. And
Max
also,
Euwe, he traveled a lot, I think, as FIDE president. So I'm sure he visited all those countries in his lifetime.
very appropriate. Well, actually, while we're waiting for an answer, because there's always a slight delay, white to play. Paul, I mean, that's something that you also mentioned, that he felt a desire, even during these years as world champion. I mean, obviously later when he was FIDE president and very active there, but he had this desire to promote chess.
Yes, and promote chess in a well. For instance, he was a strong advocate of reorganizing the World Championship procedures. Up until the first match between Euwe and Alekhine, it was just the World Championship was just private property of the world champion. Now, Euwe was very strongly against this, and he proposed to completely restructure the World Championship more or less along the lines as it was finally reconstructed after the war. So, if Euwe hadn't lost that second match, we would have had a structure of zonal tournaments, interzonal tournaments, candidates, a fair selection system years earlier. And Alekhine was, of course, completely against this. When he regained the title, that was the end of that.
Yeah.
But that showed his sense of justice,
Fairness.
equal chances, fair play, equal chances for everybody. The World Championship should, on principle, be attainable for the best player in a fair selection system.
Yeah. And then he met Fischer and the Soviets, and that's another story.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have Milan in Belgium who suggested bishop e3 or bishop c1 to push the f pawn.
Excellent. Yeah, bishop c1 I think is the best move here. I think it's a very instructive move because you just want to push the f pawn. You just want to go f4, f5, and it's black is pretty much busted actually in this position. It's just very difficult to come up with anything. Just f6 maybe, f4.
And recapture with the d pawn maybe.
I think so. Yeah, that looks very attractive. Yeah.
So if these roll, then okay, that's very, very serious. Okay, so this,
this would have been very. I mean, what Alekhine played knight f5. It's not a terrible move, obviously, but this was very convincing. The move bishop c1.
Okay, I mean, I don't know. Of course, once the g pawn advances, then it raises the stakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at least structurally speaking, this is less of an issue for black. I mean, black is still under big pressure, but at least long term, this is a bit more doable, let's say.
I mean, Erwin, you've spoken about how Euwe was very good with the initiative. What kind of a defender was he?
Active defense. So he was always looking for an active. He was not sitting passively. Generally, he was always actively trying to fix the issues in his position.
Yeah.
So definitely not one to sit and wait. I would say.
That's one reason why he.
And we see that here, by the way. Sorry, Paul. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
No, I was just saying that was exactly right what you say, and that was one of the reasons why he exchanged pawns on d4 in the early middle game, which wasn't very good, but it opened up the position to give him at least the prospects of counter chances.
Right, so returning to this position, yes.
Yeah, was I
because
think a very typical Euwe decision to exchange these pawns, which is probably not a very good idea objectively, but he just wants to do something.
But it led to great imbalance. And
Yeah,
Alikin faltered. And
yeah, yeah.
then we have this very, very sharp position now.
Yeah, he plays g5 because I think if you go knight d6 immediately, there's queen g6, right? So and then knight takes e8, there's knight f2 check.
Oh yes, yeah.
So instead he goes g5 first, so that in this position he has queen h3 check. So after, yeah,
That's
tricky.
That's crafty. Yeah,
Yes.
very tricky. Okay, so this happened.
Yeah, knight f7 is a big mistake. Because now the endgame starts to yeah, black is now really comfortable.
Now it's
Okay,
turning.
well, let's. So this was played. I want to ask our viewers about this next move for black, because I think this is a very important moment in the game, it seems to me.
Yeah,
So
true.
black to play. So just a quick reminder to everyone, and perhaps those who are arriving a little bit late, we're discussing this really splendid new book, Max Euwe, World Champion, with the two authors, Paul and Erwin. And I've posted the link where you can get it from New in Chess. So, black to play, what's next? Oh, there's always a little bit of a delay on the chat. After this, I want to turn to Nottingham 1936.
There's much to say about that tournament, yes.
There's a lot to say. We need to
Yes.
squeeze it in. And I'm going to start with something a little bit awkward.
Yeah, we need to discuss
From
that.
the
Zo.
Euwe fans here. There we go. We have Martin, Milan, and Bedone Rosso would like to play c5. Well done. Yeah,
Good move.
undermining. Yeah. And from this moment, black is in control. Okay, of course, it's still rather complicated, and in fact, well, there were some inaccuracies, but basically, Euwe got the job done in the end.
Yeah, to me, it was interesting that he, even after assumption, still allowed a draw. So it was definitely a bit of a hiccup. But yeah, eventually, like you said, he got the job done. So it's
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you said earlier you weren't quite convinced by his endgame play, and I'm sort of surprised about that, because clearly because he was a good attacker, he was a very good calculator, and well, endgame technique is very much about calculation. So I don't know. Yeah, it just
yeah.
surprises me.
The funny thing is, that we Paul and I presented the book at the Max Euwe Center a couple of weeks ago, and
Yeah.
Ivanchuk was also there by pure chance because he was playing a
Ah.
match against Max Ramadan in the Netherlands. And he was very, I mean, we got the opportunity to give him the book, and he immediately started reading it very enthusiastically. And one of the first things he also said was that he said it very respectfully, obviously, but that he was not so impressed with Euwe's endgame technique. And I think it's mostly just it's not, like you said, it's not in the calculation, but it's more like the how to say, the little moves, let's say, the small technical typical ideas where it sometimes went wrong. I mean, this rook endgame, we don't have the time to go into too much detail, but there definitely some things went wrong, and there are many other examples. His game with Lilienthal in the Olympiad, game with Capablanca, where he gave a draw in a position where he could have really played on in Nottingham. That was.
Yeah. Well,
So
okay.
there are some examples to illustrate that point, let's say.
Right. I'm going to start with something that's rather awkward
Yes.
for our Dutch fans.
Well, Paul can maybe tell the story about how Lasker dealt with all of this. Because
This is
to me, that was more shocking than the actual blunder, actually.
This is incredible. Yeah, Paul,
Yes.
take it away. So this was a game between Emanuel Lasker, of course, the former world champion, and Max Euwe playing black.
In
And
Nottingham,
in Nottingham, this famous tournament in
legendary
1936.
Yeah.
Yeah, legendary tournament. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I think Lasker, as white, played a completely unpretentious opening, clearly aiming to get a draw or at least an easy game. And Euwe, who got a, as you see, very slight advantage because of the isolated queen pawn, um, probably felt himself compelled to try and make something of this position, even against the great Lasker. And, well, there's no two ways about it, but one of Euwe's weaknesses, perhaps his only real weakness, was his tendency to blunder. So in this position, he made one of his most famous or ill-famous blunders ever, and that cost him first place in the tournament, actually.
In fact, he played very well in Nottingham and
Yeah.
was only half a point behind the two winners, Capablanca and Botvinnik, famously. And this could have made all the difference.
Yes.
So in this position, of course, let's say retreating the knight to b6 looks completely normal and... well,
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, as the Soviets might say, black has only symbolic advantage.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes,
instead,
of course, a good defender like Lasker would not lose this, and Euwe knew that, of course. But he must have felt himself obliged to just not accept a 25-move draw and try something. And he played bishop a5, yes.
Now, let's leave it to our viewers. So in this position, white to play. What did Lasker play next? And then, Paul, if you'd like to describe Lasker's actions, which are I'd never read that before. Anyway, we'll come on to that in a second. Yeah, it's really shocking.
Well, I think it was suppressed in most newspaper publications because they didn't want to hurt Lasker's image. I think this story has not become known generally because people didn't want to hear anything bad about him.
Well, we have Milan and John and Martin have all suggested b4, and as John says, it's in lots of tactics books. Yeah. So b4. Take it away, Paul.
Well, before b4, after bishop a5, so one move with the pawn still on b2, Lasker thought for a few minutes. Then he added a question mark on his score sheet to the move bishop a5, which nowadays would have been illegal. He thought for another few minutes, added a second question mark, again used up a few minutes of his thinking time, then finally played the winning move knight c2. So, well, I consider this a almost shocking disregard of how you should treat an opponent. Now white is just winning a piece. I think Euwe played on for a few moves, probably because of the shock he'd received. Is that what he played? Okay.
Yeah, apparently this is what he played.
Well, anyway, so...
Yeah, I mean, I'd never read that. I mean, I have the Alikin's annotations from the... Where is it? I've even got the book out somewhere. From Nottingham. Yeah. I mean, in that book, I mean, of course, you know, I've had that for years, and Alikin doesn't mention that story at all.
It's a very, very insulting behavior by Lasker, and I suppose this is exactly what you call in the English language adding insult to injury. So, is that okay?
Apparently that's the final position. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, this was the game that, in a way, decided the tournament. Although, of course, there were many other games.
Well, actually, the last round was also crazy, yeah?
Yeah,
Because in the last round, makes another blunder,
yeah,
a full piece actually. His opponent could have taken in that game, but then Poland doesn't do it, and anyway wins the game. And the leader is Botvinnik. Botvinnik is lost in the final position against last place
Against William
Winter.
Winter. This is
yes,
extraordinary. I
yes,
mean
It's
that's
unbelievable. He just gives a draw.
yeah, yeah.
And Capablanca, well, that's an up and down game against Bogoyuva, but he's also lost at some point. So it was I mean for the spectators, it must have been a great last round
It
there.
was a
but you know
fantastic last round. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, but William Winter
Mm.
famously he had really bad nerves. He
Mm.
had
Huh.
terrible nerves. So, if the great Botvinnik offered
Yeah,
him a draw, I
yeah.
think the temptation was perhaps just too much.
But I would invite the viewers to look up that final position. It is so nicely risk-free. It's so beautiful that you
That's
almost
true.
cannot go wrong. I don't know why you would. I would. Yeah, hard to
But
even consider it.
yeah,
But again,
and in fact, Winter was actually a pretty good classical player. He had his moments. He was. I mean, okay, you can see him at the bottom of the tournament table in some of these big tournaments, but actually, it's his nerves that really held him back.
Mm. Mm.
Sadly.
yeah, he
Uh,
played a fine game against Botvinnik in that last
Yeah,
round.
yeah, no, he
Definitely.
was absolutely capable of that.
But in terms
Actually,
of, I mean, we've now discussed the blunder with Lasker, but that is, of course, I mean, the topic of blunders in general. That's unfortunately one we do have to really discuss because he did make a lot of blunders in his
and
career,
okay, so
and
this
yeah,
invites the question. So why is that? I mean, a theory could be, well, we know he wasn't a full-time player, and so only could play tournaments in the holidays. So is this basically he wasn't quite match fit? Paul, what would you say to that?
It's really very, very hard to find out the reason 90 years afterwards.
Hmm.
My own idea is that he had a certain impatience about him, and his blunders were, well, not this one. I think this was not a blunder. This was
No, this
just
is
a,
not a blunder, but I find
yeah,
it a really interesting position. But sorry
yeah.
to interrupt.
This is just a missed win, a very complicated position. But I think Euwe in general had a sort of impatience which sometimes, well, brought him down. And then, but
Yeah.
I'm only guessing, it's only an idea I formed by looking at his games and his life.
Erwin, I mean, I've picked this game out against Botvinnik, because I think it's a fascinating end game actually. But is there
Hmm.
another game? Do you want to look at one of his wins from Nottingham?
yeah, let's take one.
So, for example, against Vidmar.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
the one we're talking about is a bit too. Well, Vidmar, we can, yeah, yeah,
yeah. Let's
definitely,
have a look at that one. So let
yeah.
me just holler
Oh
when
yeah,
you
this
want to
is of
stop.
course this is a very instructive win. Yeah, he plays his Slav, which is his line,
Yeah.
and I mean, especially in this period, in 1936, there is absolutely no bigger expert in the world on this particular opening variation than Euwe. He wins also more or less every opening discussion with Alekijn when they reach this position, and they reached quite a couple of times in their matches. And he goes rook d8 here, queen c1. Yeah, just normal opening theory in those days. Nowadays, of course, the move g5 became very topical earlier. Um, yeah, this is all still fairly normal, nothing much happening. Yeah, and around here, this is, I mean, Vidmar tries to improve on a game between Alekhine and Euwe in their first match with Rook A4, but it's not really an improvement at all.
Yeah, okay, but this is, I think, really illustrates very well indeed how you mentioned that he was just a superb theoretician, because
Yes.
this is extraordinary. We're on move 17, and this is a game from the Alekhine over 1935 match where Alekhine exchanged on e5. So basically, I mean, in those days, to play 17, 18 moves of theory is pretty extraordinary, I think.
Yeah, and he was confident that he could repeat it. So he was not afraid that Wiedmer would come up with. I mean, it also shows confidence in your preparation, and he
Yeah.
had that. He was willing to. He was in general, I think, very principled, both in his chess and in his preparation.
Okay, just
Yeah, and now he
call
starts
out.
fishing for some tricks on h7, but it all just doesn't work. I especially like the end when the bishops start to. Um, yeah, bishop takes e5, bishop a7, very nice. Because after f takes e5, there's queen b3 check, if
Okay,
I'm not
let's just.
mistaken.
Yep. So we got a
So
little attack.
he avoids that. He just keeps the bishops. So the bishop has to move from e5, and then b5 comes, followed by c5 and c4, and it just starts to collapse completely.
Nice.
Yeah, queen c1, c4, bishop comes to b7. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, just a very powerful game from start to finish. I mean, good opening, good
Yeah.
preparation, and then just when the moment comes, he just strikes.
Total
Yeah.
refutation of White's prepared variation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's a very powerful game.
Yeah, very powerful, very, very clear cut game. Okay, Wiedmer probably didn't play the best way either, but it's still a nice illustration of how played and how he approached the game, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think we should end on that high point.
Yeah.
Which yeah, it's a really powerful game actually. I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you very much for coming on the show this evening. But I want to conclude really with legacy. So, Paul, you spoke about the kind of euphoria in the Netherlands and how chess clubs opened all over the place. How long has this persisted? Are you both part of the over legacy?
Well, I think I am, yes. I think I have been able to be a professional chess player because of the climate, the chess climate in Holland that was created by Euwe. Of course, by then, in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, it was Timman who was let's say, our leader. He was the man who attracted the sponsors, attracted publicity. But still, this was on the basis of what Euwe has done for the Dutch chess world. So I think without Euwe, I would not have been able to make a profession of chess.
Well, I mean, that's very interesting. You mentioned, sorry, Erwin, I was just going to say, you mentioned Jan Timman, of course, sadly died fairly recently. I mean, do you see him, even in his style, Erwin, do you see Timman as the successor to Euwe? Do you think he learned from Euwe in some way?
No, I wanted to add that Euwe, in a way, formed a sort of Dutch school of approach to the game, in my view. If you see Jan Timman, for instance, he played more or less any opening variation out there. He was always very well prepared. Openings were a big basis of his success. Anish Giri, in modern times, is a very well prepared player. And in a way, you could say that that is a Dutch way of approaching the game. So he has a lasting impact, I think, to this very day. So yeah, I would definitely agree with Paul that his impact is huge and it's ongoing, I think.
And indeed, you are as a second, as a player, You're a great theoretician as well.
And Paul was a great theoretician in his time.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember Paul at some point improving on a game between Karpov and Kasparov, I think, in the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah. Only
Definitely,
one, but yes.
definitely the Queen's Gambit. We like
Yes.
that. Okay, listen. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. And just to remind everyone, we've been discussing their new book, Max Euwe, World Champion, the champion years 1935 to 1937. And I can warmly recommend this. It's very readable, which is nice for a chess book. It was very well written and yeah, very nice selection of games. So yeah, congratulations on the book, gents. And yeah, thanks very much. And thank you everyone for joining in tonight on the chat. And this will be, of course, posted on the channel a little bit later if you want to review what we've been looking at tonight. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Dan.